Hello everyone. This is Learning Objective 3 of Chapter 1, Week 1. In this video, we discuss how the demands and the assets held by financial institutions have changed over the time in the Australian context. You understand that at any moment in time, each financial institution supplies a set of financial services, for example, brokerage, asset transformation, or both that we discussed in the last two videos. And financial institutions are subject to net regulatory burden. As the demands for the special features of financial services change due to changing preferences, macroeconomic conditions, and technology, one or more areas of the financial services industry becomes more or less profitable. Similarly, changing regulation can increase or decrease the net regulatory burden faced in supplying financial services in any given area. These demand costs and regulatory pressures are reflected in changing market shares in different financial services. This table, you can see that the percentage of the share of assets of Australian financial institutions between 1953 to 2013. A number of important trends are clearly evident from here. I suppose the most apparent one is the decline of the total share of banks. You can see it. I'm talking about this total share of banks from 1950s to about 1980s. For example, you can see in 1953 it was 66.4%, whereas in 1980 it was only 42.1%. And so is 2000, it's 44.8%. After which, however, you can see the share began to rise to a high of 59.5% in 2012. And another important trend we can see is the superannuation. You can see there was no contribution of the superannuation in the financial institution or financial system in the Australian market from 1950s to 1980s. However, from 1990, you can see that there is an exponential growth in the assets held by superannuation from 11% to 22% in 2013. That actually was contributed by the mandatory superannuation regulation. You perhaps know that currently the Australian companies are bound to contribute 9% of their employee salaries to their superannuation fund. The employers. So that has contributed this growth in the superannuation. And another is the life insurance and superannuation fund. You can see that was about 20% in 1953. That increased to 27% in 2000, and after a little bit of fluctuation, ended up in 26.6% in 2013. So these are the couple of trends that we can find obviously from this percentage of share of assets of financial institutions hold. And these are some large financial institutions in terms of the market capitalization globally. For example, the banks in terms of market capitalization in the world is the Wells Fargo Company, that's a US bank. And there are a couple of Chinese banks in the top 20s. For example, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Agricultural Bank of China, Bank of China. So there are a couple of banks. And also the US bank dominate the list. Like after Wells Fargo, there are JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Citigroup. Obviously, there are a few other banks that those are from UK or Canada have made up this top 20 list. For example, HSBC Holding, Banco, and Royal Bank of Canada. There are a couple of Australian banks as well. For example, you can say Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, the Banking Corporation, and Australian New Zealand Bank. So these are the few largest banks in the world in terms of their market capitalization on December 31, 2014. So that's the end of our discussion in this learning objective. The last learning objective of this one will be discussed in the next video. Thank you.